Hello everyone, my name is Griffin and we are back with another reaction video. We are reacting to, what was this channel's name again? Upper Echelon. This is Upper Echelon's video of his review of the first Descendant. Now this one is called, his title for this is called Perfectly Mediocre First Descendant Review. Now, before I say anything and give my own opinion, I will say, let's listen to what he has to say. So, let's get on with it. And first of all, I actually like Upper Echelon. I think he has a lot of great takes on a lot of things. Some of them I probably don't understand very well because, I'm not the most educated person in the world on some topics, but I respect his opinion and his views on a lot of things. So let's see what he has to say about the first Descendant.
This video is brought to you by Incogni. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire Upper Echelon community. Alright, this one took me a while, but here we are, finally. First Descendant. And right off the bat, First Descendant is a game which does pretty much nothing new at all, yet somehow manages to harvest a tremendous amount of market share from existing properties by simply combining things that people already want in a successful way. Maybe you've already played it and you're watching videos to hear some sort of reinforcing commentary that supports your existing opinion. Maybe you haven't and you're watching reviews to better understand what the game is before you spend any time. Or maybe you don't even care and you just want to know more about why so many people are talking about it. Regardless of the why, you clicked on a review, so here's my honest opinion about how the first Descendant is simultaneously fantastic and terrible at the same exact time, leaving me conflicted about why precisely I spent over 100 hours so far playing it and how it could possibly be that I just kind of want to keep going. By far, the best way to describe First Descendant is by comparing it to what exists already. It's an amalgamation of mechanics that you can find elsewhere, pretty much all of them. And it's probably the furthest thing from unique that I've seen come out of the video game industry in quite some time.
When I first played this, I saw it as a combination of 2 to 3 games. The 2 to 3 games I saw this as a combination of was one of them was Warframe, obviously, because this is a lot of remnants of Warframe. 2 others was Tom Clancy's The Division 2. And the last one, because of the powers that also come with it, was Outriders. And I do recommend giving Outriders a try to those who haven't played it before, because I think it's a pretty good game. But I see it as a combination of those 3 games for Warframe, Division 2, and Outriders. And yeah, I've I've accumulated a lot of time in this game as well, and I find it enthralling. Now, I'm sorry for how this looks. I don't know if it's how because of the video he uploaded or if it's on my end. So I can kind of tell this is kind of not in the best. Yeah, it looks.
That sounds negative, and to a degree it is. I love seeing developers innovate new systems and break new ground creatively, but in this particular case, while certainly holding a negative connotation, lack of innovation doesn't mean a lack of fun. First Descendant is best described as a combination of Destiny, the game, Warframe, one of the most successful loot-based free-to-play titles probably ever, and maybe a splash of Tom Clancy's The Division if we're inclined to be generous. Please keep in mind, when I say combination of, I quite literally mean a combination of those games' artistic styles and flat-out mechanics, especially Destiny and Warframe, so much so that Nexon, the developers behind First Descendant, have come out and acknowledged that a bunch of icons and artwork are just way too similar and need to be changed. There's enemy animations and combat mechanics that are almost completely identical. There's weapon designs that seem eerily familiar. And more so with Warframe as opposed to Destiny, the basic progression, power curve, upgrade process, and crafting are just flat out replicated. No question, no dispute, copied completely because it works. Now, I want to take a second here and acknowledge something. Comparing this game to what exists out there already is pound for pound the best way to review it. However, not everyone watching has any idea what the progression system of Warframe looks like or the combat style of Destiny. So comparing this game to 2 other games and saying, now you should know what you're getting into, is like telling a blind man that green is a combination of blue and yellow, which is not very helpful. Keeping that in mind, I'm going to start from the very beginning, give a broad strokes overview of the game itself, not the stuff it copied from other places, tell you what I like, what I don't like, and then conclude with a final opinion on why this title is so wildly successful. Let's get into it in just a minute. Before going further, today's video is brought to you.
I've heard a lot of people have a problem with a lot of the icons and stuff being very similar to Destiny's icons. And I don't really see a major problem with it as long as they're just blatantly copy pasting it line for line. Then that's just a blatant ripoff. I mean, it has some similarities, yes, but I honestly don't see a problem with it. There are a lot of similarities with many games that take inspiration from each other. And as long as somebody is not blatantly copy and pasting the stuff from the other games that they're taking inspiration from, then I don't really see a problem with it. They're taking inspiration from other games. Like this one, he said he sees a combination of Warframe, Destiny 2, and a little bit of Division 2 or Division. They're both the same, just I personally see as Outriders, Warframe, and Division 2. But that's just I can kind of see Destiny, but only with the icons. With the gameplay itself, I see it as the 3 games that I said. But that's just my opinion. Everyone has their own. But I like I said, I don't see the problem with it. As long as they're not just blatantly ripping it off, I don't see a problem with it being similar. I mean, they're taking inspiration from these other games. There's not really a problem with it. So, but that's just my opinion.
By Incogni. Incogni is all about online privacy and data protection. That's actually been one of my hobbies lately, owing to how important protecting your data is in a modern digital world, increasingly so. Every single day, your data is at risk of being sold by third-party brokers or accessed without your knowledge in data breaches. Some people don't care, but they should care. The number of identity theft victims has gone up over 41% since 2021. And for anyone who wants to prevent that kind of thing, Incogni can help. Your personal information is absolutely everywhere now, and not just in the archives of companies you know about or signed up for on purpose, but other data firms as well, who then sell it all across the internet. For everyday users, it's a nearly impossible task to take any action at all because there are hundreds of these data brokers, and it's a lengthy process to contact them, fight objections, and get something removed. However, Incogni does all of this for you quickly and easily. The process is incredibly simple. Sign up for the website, give them specific legal permission to work on your behalf, and let them know what kind of information they'll be having removed. After that, sit back and just watch them work. Aggregating this kind of service lets them do what would otherwise be an all-consuming and nearly impossible task for individuals, which is why so many people have so much information online that they never even know about. Using the link down below in the description and code ECHELON at checkout, you'll get 60% off an annual subscription to Incogni. I could go into a lot more depth on this. The services they offer and the value they provide is quite large, considering, but for the sake of time, I have to keep it trimmed. Again, link down below and promo code ECHELON for 60% off your subscription. Big thank you to Incogni for sponsoring the channel. Okay, I'll start with combat. First Descendant is a third-person, action-based looter shooter developed by Nexon, which is extremely relevant down the line for the criticism portion of the video. But overall, the game is very snappy when it comes to combat. The gunplay feels good, the hitboxing is nice, the pacing is great, and one of the more enjoyable aspects of the game is running missions, defeating enemies, and getting drops. You have a grappling hook for mobility, which is well made and very smooth and carries over inertia, so you can actually do some really complex and fun things when you become an expert with it. You can use it in combat as well, which has some interesting applications. But the bread and butter here is using one of the...
Yeah, in other games that I've seen with grappling hooks or similar things to grappling hooks, you can only go in a linear way. You can't really do anything with it. You can't grapple onto enemies. Whereas in this one, I don't know if any other games that have done it. With this one, you grappling onto something and you can sort of swerve yourself to left or right. I don't know up or down because I haven't tried that yet, but you can basically just go curve yourself with the grappling hook. And also you can grapple onto people on this one and just melee them as long as they're not a boss character, because you can't grapple onto a boss character, obviously. But yeah, in this one, it's very dynamic on the movement you can do with the grappling hook, which I find quite nice because when it comes to a lot of the laser grid stuff, like you can grapple yourself around it or over it, and instead of just trying to go straight through it, which most grappling hooks do, you can't really curve yourself with it. I find it really nice that you can do it with this one.
The 14 characters and then running around just openly killing stuff, which is fun. In terms of power progression, there's a bunch of different categories, which are kind of hard to explain, but I'll do my best. You, the player, level up in a variety of ways independent from the character you play as. For starters, everything you do, or complete rather, for the first time at least, has a mastery score attached to it, which levels up your mastery rank to a maximum of 30. Mastery rank, despite being something that slows down substantially and stops being something you really pay any attention to rather quickly, is hugely important because it increases a variety of other metrics as it goes up, such as your weapon mod capacity, which equates to power level, or character mod capacity, which does the same thing and allows for different builds, making it the sort of foundation power progression that the game has to offer. Outside of that, you have gear score, which is the relative power of the weapons and equipable items that drop. You have weapon proficiency levels, which allows for complex endgame building after you go through them a bunch of times. And you have character level, character as in the playable character that you happen to be using at the time. Altogether, it's a blend of systems where there's always something you can do more to increase the power fantasy, and there's always another mission or boss fight or objective to grind. Here's the thing though. To get new characters, or to get particular weapons or components or upgrade items, you have to grind specific missions. The enormous and intricate web of craftable items and components, or materials or upgrade parts, is strewn across the map where you have to farm one of these 5 activities to get this thing, and then those 5 activities to crack that thing open, and then you have a 15 or a 20% chance to get this one thing that you actually wanted from the entire process, and the entire thing is honestly just tedious. The game somehow manages to make you feel engaged while doing these activities, and there's always a possibility of other cool things to drop as well, which is very much appreciated. But your ability to farm targeted resources, modules, or components is often significantly restricted by randomness. What makes it all worse is that, as of right now at least, there is no trading system. Nexon says they might add some sort of player-to-player trade economy, maybe, someday, but...
Yeah, it does get very tedious, and it does get very frustrating sometimes. Like, there was an amorphous material I had. I had like 5 of one type for the first Colossi boss you fight. I forget its name, but it's the crab-looking one. I did that 5 times. I was trying to get the thing for the crystallized thing that you, it's crystallization or crystallized something. It's the rainbow ring looking thing. I forget what it's called, but it basically prestiges your weapon. It adds like a little icon onto it. So if you put that specific icon mod on it, it halves the module for it. So if it has 6, it would have it down to 3. Now this amorphous thing had one of the items I needed for it, and all 5 times instead of getting that, I got a Lepic thing. And it was a bit frustrating because that's the only thing I ever got, because the thing for the crystallized rainbow ring, like I said, I forget what it's called. In every single one, it's fixed at, I think it was like 15 or 20% chance of dropping. Now, if you use the little thing onto it, it increases its drop rate to, I think, 25 or 30%. Now, it sucks because all 5 times I got Lepic instead of that material that I wanted. So it does kind of feel a bit frustrating that you have to grind something for hours on end just to get the one particular item that you want. But like you said, for some reason, somehow it makes you still feel satisfied doing all this stuff, even though it can be frustrating and very tedious. But I do appreciate that, because I'm genuinely loving this game. So even though it's frustrating and it takes forever, it still makes you feel satisfied in some way. And now I'll say this isn't for everybody. Not everybody's gonna like this. No one game is gonna be a game that every single person in the world is gonna like. But for most people that like to play this game, while it's tedious and frustrating, it is also satisfying and fun.
As it stands, the game doesn't have one. So when you spend an hour or 2 or 5 grinding out amorphous materials, which are basically item loot boxes that you crack open in the game, and then you get the same weapon blueprint from every single one of them, you have quite literally wasted all of your time and can't get a single thing back from that investment. I can't stress this enough, so let me just try and be super clear. If you spend time farming for something and you don't get the item that you wanted, that's normal. Happens in pretty much every single loot based game. If it's almost a complete waste, but at least you get some components or something, that's also normal. And maybe at worst, you get some money by selling the item off to some random vendor. It doesn't take up inventory space anymore. You
Agreed.
just move on.
I agree.
However, if you spend your time farming for something and get literally nothing, a flat zero, nothing you can use, nothing you can sell, something that takes up inventory space with no other purpose or value, and you can't get rid of it, that is infuriating, and it makes you want to quit the game. That, unfortunately, happens a lot in this game. You may try to get an upgrade component at a 20% probability, but instead, you get a Descendant crafting part for a Descendant you already have, which then sits in your inventory taking up space and can't.
The when I was streaming this last time, the one thing I thought of is that, you know, if you have already unlocked a Descendant and you can't combine the Descendants like you can with the legendary guns like the Thunder Cage. I've crafted all the Thunder Cages I can and combined all of them so it's fully upgraded and everything. Now, since you can't do that with the Descendants, the one thing I think they should have added in is that if you have already unlocked the Descendant, then the material, then the like the blueprint for said Descendant should not drop for you anymore, because you have already have it unlocked and you can't do anything anymore with said Descendant. So it should make it so that it doesn't drop anymore for you. So therefore, it doesn't waste any more space in your inventory and you don't have to worry about getting it anymore. It should be replaced with something else that you could use, like a weapon blueprint or a weapon something, or gold or some sort of crafting material that you could use for something else. If you have unlocked something that cannot be upgraded or by combining the same thing anymore, it should not drop anymore, because at that point it's just a waste of space and a waste of time. But that's just, you know, how I feel.
Can't be sold or deconstructed or used. It's the epitome of wasting your time, and having it happen sequentially over and over, yeah, you're not going to be happy about it. Even further, Nexon, the developer, has not once, but twice been punished by the South Korean Fair Trade Commission for falsifying loot box drop rates. In the case of MapleStory, quote, it continued changing the odds until March of 2021, in some cases ensuring that particularly high demand cubes didn't drop at all, but did not notify players of the changes. In fact, in August 2011, Nexon released a statement saying that no changes had been made, end quote. That's very obviously a different game in question here, but when I spend hours and hours of my time grinding out randomized reward materials and then opening them, where the most immediately valuable thing I want has supposedly a 20% drop rate, but you get none of them, only to realize that I could spend a large amount of money in the store and get that thing immediately, it makes me wonder if the developer, who has lied to their player base and secretly lowered drop rates before multiple times, is doing it again, maybe. And once that question takes hold in your brain, it's very hard to shake off. In terms of true endgame, even if the materials to progress your power level are somewhat super annoying to obtain, the boss battles are quite fun. I've done all the regular void intercepts, and the hard ones. I've got multiple characters to level 40. I've got guns that do adequate damage in the toughest missions and against the toughest monsters, which leaves me with an impression that the boss battles are actually super well designed. Each one has some sort of special mechanic. It could be a team wipe that you have to avoid, a series of towers you have to align, or shielded modules you have to destroy. But the ability to grapple onto those huge bosses and rip off their armor, or ramp up your damage super high and shred them before they even get a chance to activate their second phase, is extremely satisfying. However, these main bosses, the Void Intercepts is what they're called, are not indicative of other boss monsters in the open world or in various missions, because those bosses are basically all exactly the same and also extremely annoying. In regular missions, when you see a boss monster, it's either 2 or 3 phases, and every single time you get through a phase, they spawn these stupid little shield orbs that you have to kill in order to make them vulnerable again. Sometimes you even have to kill the shield orbs in the exact order that they spawned, or they immediately respawn again, which is obnoxious to a completely new level. And it's kind of insane to me how a game with solid, rewarding, and well made boss battle encounters in one area can have such terribly low quality mini bosses elsewhere, everywhere. It's really baffling. The game is super engaging to play in a turn your brain off type of way, but it really just boils down to a few repeated tasks. In most of the missions, you either stand on a single point or gather things up and deposit them in a bin. That's mostly it. Yes, before someone goes, well, actually, there is a drone escort mission type, and there's stuff where you just eliminate some number of enemies, but the majority of the content you play for regular missions will be stand here for a set amount of time or gather things. It's disappointing when they clearly have other content that meets a higher bar, and it could have been incorporated all over the place. The story is kind of stupid, but I don't play this type of game for the story. I play for the loot and the combat. However, even then, First Descendant makes some really strange choices, like basically spoon feeding every single player the best AoE clearing character in the entire game right away. She's called Bunny, and she does lightning AoE damage, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but they give her to everyone within like 2 hours, and then you realize just how bad all of the other characters are at speed clearing and loot farming, because they gave you the best option immediately. I guess I'm not angry about it, but when 50% of the entire player base are all just running around using the same exact character because she's so ridiculously more efficient than anything else for most activities, I don't know. It's a really strange development choice to say the least. Another development choice is crafting timers. After you
I thought it was a bit weird that they gave you a new Descendant basically just by playing through like a few different areas of the campaign. I mean, I don't really mind it. I don't play Bunny that much. I don't really care to play Bunny. I'm loving playing Lepic. I just got, I think her name is Sharon, because of the double rewards you get from the certain missions by just staying invisible and doing the 3 or 4 different um, things, which I have to upgrade her timer on her invisibility because it's still too short for me to do it. But that being said, it is a bit ridiculous that you get the best AoE clearing character just by playing for a few hours. I mean, they could have made it a little bit more difficult just to get her, but it made it so easy. But personally, I don't really care to play Bunny, because I like Lepic. He's to me he's fun, but that's just me.
spend what, I don't know, a dozen hours grinding for one particular component which fails to drop beyond any statistically justifiable reality whatsoever, you have to craft the damn thing, which can take you like 20 additional hours. Yeah, just wait, it's free, that's true, I understand. But a huge portion of this game is designed to irritate you into spending money. It's painfully obvious what they did and why they did it. It's not the easiest game in the world to learn, and a lot of the more helpful systems, like the Access Info panel, which is great by the way, showing what drops and rewards come from what places or missions, are just tucked away in a menu tab somewhere without ever being highlighted or ever emphasized. Once you know about it, it's amazing, but the game could very easily have done a better job explaining itself and teaching players about the various convenience tools that they have at their disposal. Also, the DPS meter is just broken. It doesn't work properly and gives inaccurate representations of weapon performance, which a lot of people clearly don't know or don't care, maybe leaving them with horribly unoptimized weapons when it comes to damage output, which makes group content much, much more difficult. It's not a huge deal, but it's definitely noticeable when you try to do a hard boss and
Yeah, you there have been. Well, first of all, let me comment on the timers. The timers that I've seen so far, I haven't seen the timer for the like the legendary versions of them, of the Descendants, but the timer for a legendary weapon is at most 4 hours that I've seen. You just grind the components and then you have it go for you have it researched, and it takes 4 hours. And for those who don't know, the timer still goes whether the game is on or off. So it happens in real time for those who don't know. So you can have it start, turn the game off, come back 4 hours later, it'll be done. So, and the regular Descendants that I've seen take, if I remember correctly, it's 16 hours to get through a research. Like I said, I don't know the ultimate versions, I don't know if they take the same amount of time, but they do go in real time. So as soon as you start it, you can turn off the game, come back 16 hours later, it'll be done. But if you want to speed it up, you can spend the in-game currency to have it done right away. Which for a 16-hour one, I think is 250 to 500 of those in-game coins. But or you can spend the $30 to $60 to unlock the regular Descendants or the ultimate versions of the Descendants. Like for the ultimate Lepic or the ultimate versions of any of the characters, I believe it's $60 to get them immediately. But aside from some of the skins, you can basically get everything in the game just by playing the game. But for a lot of people, this game does kind of annoy you a bit into wanting to spend the money just so you can get the Descendants faster. I'm not going to do that. I've spent some money just to get a couple of skins. Like I have the Lepic skin where he has the red skull for the skin, but that's about it. Other than that, I'm not going to spend the money to unlock the Descendants because I could use that money for, stuff that I actually need. So it's going to take me significantly longer to unlock everything, but that's just me. But yeah, this game does kind of annoy you into wanting to buy everything just to unlock it, which is kind of irritating for those who don't have a lot of patience. Now, for the damage stuff, I've gone into plenty of the Colossi matchmaking stuff, and I've seen plenty of people go into it either well under leveled or well under geared or modded, because a lot of these different Colossi have stuff where it tells you should have this amount of resistance so you won't have to be completely annihilated within a couple of seconds. Like the swamp one, I believe you need to have, 2600, at least 2600 toxic resistance. And there are people who go into that who don't really have that much. They don't have that much defense. They don't have that much shield. They don't have that much attack. They don't have that much stuff they would need to fight it. So a lot of people end up dying right away. They don't do enough damage because they don't have the right stuff on their weapons either to significantly do it enough for you can get it done either within 10 minutes or everyone just dies too damn quickly. So people really, I understand there are people who try hard in this game and they've found a few cheaters, which I don't fucking understand. And there are people who just want to have fun. But you do also have to understand that you can't go into these things so underprepared just to get through the story. You have to at least put some thought into your mods so you can survive it. You can, put your part into the battle, and so you can take it down within 10 minutes or under 10 minutes. So it's just some people don't really understand how to prepare for the fight, which can get annoying if you've gone through the boss fight over 10 times and you still can't get through it. So I'd say people should probably try and understand the fights they're getting into a bit more before they actually go into it.
Somebody's just like shooting marshmallows at it and it's like, hey bro, you built wrong. And I don't know, but nobody ever listens to that. So I don't know, the DPS meter being broken, I'm choosing to blame that. Like, fix the DPS meter so people have an accurate representation of their damage, please. The end game meta is pretty stagnant right now, although the game did just release, so that's forgivable. It may get shaken up over time, probably, but certain mods have multiplicative damage calculations instead of additive damage calculations, and certain weapons are just straight up superior stat-wise, which makes it so that there's not a ton of build diversity if you're specifically talking about clearing end game content. However, it's brand new, and a lot of that will get changed with various patches. That's half the point of games like this, so I'm not too concerned about it. One thing that I should make note of is some pretty severe frame rate drops, infrequent, but they have a sort of 1-2 pattern with them at times, as well as the fact that the game has not one but two versions of anti-cheat, one of them being Black Cypher, which is Nexon's own proprietary software, and Black Cypher has a lot of controversy attached to it. It supposedly monitors browsing history and websites you visit to make sure you don't go to cheat distribution pages. And I'm not going too far down the rabbit hole, but the level of privacy invasion here is very much worth taking into consideration if you want to play this game. Easy anti-cheat, which the game has, is also pretty bad. Kernel level access, various vulnerabilities. But these are part of a cost-benefit analysis that most players aren't even making, so I just thought I'd mention it. At its best, the game has me coming back for more, which is solid and a very good thing to see in a video game. I have certain build ideas, mixing and matching mods is fantastic. I keep theorizing about certain character skills and team compositions for boss battles, etc. But those moments of genuine fun are punctuated by things that are honestly just super irritating. The gameplay is engaging, but my brain does turn off outside of very specific boss battles. The fact that there's always something new to get is cool, and the fact that they maintain value for most activities regardless of your level is awesome. But when you spend time trying to get those cool things and just end up with a perpetually occupied inventory slot because your time got completely disrespected and wasted, that's really not so cool. First Descendant doesn't have personality. It's a very blatant rehash of things that people already wanted, but there's nothing actually wrong about giving people a heavy dose of what you know they ultimately already like. I could do without the grindy monetization gimmicks, I could do without the super lazy mini-boss design and the repetitive mission structure as well, and the fact that my time is quite often wasted. But I find myself enjoying the gameplay and thinking about possibilities for future builds, which is the entire point of a loot-based game. First Descendant is fun, albeit flawed. Although, I don't know if I would even call it a flaw. It seems super intentional in the design. Like, the game is constructed to annoy you into buying microtransactions. So, is that a flaw, or is that successful design, even though I hate the success and I hate the design for that portion? I don't know. It's got an excellent foundation for the future, to be sure, in terms of raw gameplay. If Nexon can do right by the community, that is, and focus on improving the game instead of improving the cash flow. No promises there. I'm obviously skeptical about that, but honestly, we'll see what happens. For me, it's a 6 out of 10.
Considering how a lot of the bigger companies for games they tend to focus more on generating money than they do retainability for the game, which I find that really sad, because if they make it so they can retain the people in the game and make the game more fun, then in turn it will start making more money because more people want to keep playing it, and it'll draw more people into wanting to play it. So I do hope that they focus more on making the game more fun, adding more elements into the game, adding more different kinds of missions, different kinds of bosses, make it more variety, and just generally making the game fun. I think the game will do better over time, but considering how a lot of companies have done, I'm not really sure. I'm on the fence. I don't have high expectations. I don't have low expectations. I just right in the middle of where my expectations are, because I don't want to be disappointed, because I'm having a lot of fun with this game. So I hope that they keep improving with the game. He said a 6 out of 10 for this game. I can respect that. I give it around a 7 or 8 personally, but I can respect a 6 out of 10 for this game.
Maybe a 7, but a 6 or a 7 that feels higher, I guess, because they took very successful concepts and mashed them together for the purpose of making something that is fun. Not innovative, mind you, just fun. And sometimes that's all you really want from a game. You want to log in, turn your brain off a little bit, have fun, and run around in a digital world getting loot drops. First Descendant offers that in spades. That's it. No harm at all whatsoever in trying it out. It's free, after all. But I'm not raving about this one despite its phenomenal success in terms of player count, because it really is just a mashup of pre-established concepts that attracts people from existing communities like Warframe or Destiny, who will probably quickly burn out and return to their respective main titles. Perhaps coming back for major content drops, I guess, but likely not switching games entirely. It's good, but the term I keep coming back to is perfect mediocrity, and that's my final say. If you want to support the channel, there are links down below. The video sponsor, of course, merchandise, social media, locals, and Patreon for monthly memberships. That's a great one, and more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, question everything, and have a nice night.
You know, I perfectly respect everything you said about the game. I can agree with a lot of it too. It is, I would say, it has the sort of success that Helldivers did in the beginning, as long as they don't completely fuck it up like Sony did, and they keep improving upon the game, the gameplay. I'd say bring more variety into the missions, into the boss fights, the open world boss fights, you know, all this sort of stuff, and you know, keep the campaign exciting or make it more exciting, and bring in more fun colossi, and you know, all this sort of stuff. They keep focusing on that stuff. I think they will retain and inevitably grow their player base. But like I said, I'm going to keep my expectations right in the middle. I'm not going to keep them high, not going to keep them low, just right in the middle. Because I'm personally having fun with this game. But I do hope that this game continues going up, and just I can see its player base is dipping a little bit after a while until new content comes out, because that's basically with almost every single game out there, and almost every new game that comes out, it gets a high player base, it sort of stagnates out, and sometimes it'll dip because it takes a while for new content to come out. It's happened with almost every game out there. Warframe, it's happened to Warframe, Destiny, Division, Outriders, and a lot of MMOs as well. Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Old Republic. It basically almost every single game out there that has an MMO feel or a multiplayer feel. It rises when new stuff comes out. It sort of plateaus, and then sometimes it'll dip, and it's, you know, peaks and valleys. But I do hope that this one doesn't die, because it is a genuinely fun game. But that was Upper Echelon's review of the first Descendant. I say I respect it. I say he has a lot of good points and a lot of good views on it, and I can agree with almost everything he's said about the game, if not everything he said. I recommend checking out Upper Echelon. He has a lot of good takes on a lot of things. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more. I post 3 days a week. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.